show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. The NFL is brought to you by Path of Purity. Make sure you check them out at pathofpurity.direct. Right now, you can get a 2-month supply for the price of one and free shipping. Make sure you check out pathofpurity.direct for the best CBD there is. I'm your host for the NFL show, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I'd like to welcome in my co-host, Sam Teets. How you doing, Sam?
I'm doing great, Mike. How about you?
All right. And next up, a man of a lot of words. None of them make a lot of sense sometimes. Bill Walton's little brother, Steve Risley. How you doing, Steve?
Doing good. Good, gentlemen. Good morning. Good
All
weekend
right.
of football.
It was an all right weekend of football, especially when you consider the Pittsburgh Steelers weren't there. The Green Bay Packers rolled over the Los Angeles Rams rather easily. I mean, it got close for a little while, but Sam, this is a game I don't think ever really felt like much danger for the Packers. And the thing that really impressed me is the way the Packers handled the Rams defense.
Well, right from the very start of the game, I think the first drive, they drove down the field. They ended up having to kick a field goal. They didn't score a touchdown. But it really set the tone early on. They were moving the ball fairly easily against this Rams defense, which has a lot of good players. Aaron Donald certainly didn't look like he was 100%. He was off the field for quite a few plays and grimacing on some other ones. So it didn't seem like he was fully healthy. But I think you still have to be very impressed with the way Aaron Rodgers looked. I mean, Aaron Jones ran the ball for 99 yards. Jamal Williams had 65 yards. And Devontae Adams didn't even have that huge big game, 66 yards. It was Alan Lazard with 96 that had the big outing. So I think the Packers and Aaron Rodgers right now, they're just on a roll. They look almost unstoppable. We'll see how they do against Tom Brady next week.
Yeah, and the thing that was most impressive to me, Sam just brought up, Aaron Jones, 14 carries for 99 yards. Jamal Williams, 12 carries for 65 yards. You can't win just with Aaron Rodgers. At least I don't think you can. You've got to be able to run the ball somewhat. And I think this makes the Packers' offense that more dangerous. And to play without your starting left tackle, David Bakhtiari, they dominated, I thought, the Rams' defensive line, Steve.
Well, I mean, you start from the very beginning. I mean, obviously the key factor was Aaron McDonald.
Who the hell is Aaron McDonald? Did
McDonald.
He have an arm? E-I-E-I-O.
Yeah.
All right.
I think that, this was billed as the alleged number one defense against the alleged number one offense in the league. But obviously, when McDonald doesn't ever show physically,
Aaron Donald. Okay.
Aaron Donald doesn't show in any physicality. I mean, he's hurt. I mean, he just hurt. And that takes a lot of pressure off the offensive line to have to double team him and allow them to focus on the rest of it. Pretty well effectively rendering the front four for the Rams ineffective. And basically, you give Aaron Rodgers that much time to sit back there in the pocket with his receivers, he's going to pick you apart every time. You made a comment about you don't know that one player can win. If any player can, it's Aaron Rodgers right now in the NFL. He can beat you single-handedly, and he kind of proved that. He had a good running game. I think that running game was a lot of a byproduct.
Steve, I think the last 10 years shows us that he can't beat you by himself.
Well, no, but I'm talking about this year. He's having an MVP year. I mean, right now, he's the most dangerous quarterback in the NFL. Right now. Who wouldn't for the last 10 years has he been? No. But right now, we're only talking about right now. We're not playing the last 10 Super Bowls.
Well, that's bullshit. Because this is the thing. When I look at
this, they haven't even got there yet.
So. The last 10 years, though, he didn't have this run game. That's my point.
Well, he's got a run game because he's got a good offensive line, and because the run game, don't get overhyped on this run game. I mean, the Rams' defensive line fell apart. I mean, they kind of gave him the run game to a degree. I mean, it's a good running game. And it compliments, but that run game is set up by Aaron Rodgers' arm. I mean, you can't just sit there and do what they do to the Colts and just focus on the Colts' running game because they don't have a damn quarterback that can throw the ball 10 yards down the field. So it complements each other tremendously, and that's what championship football teams do.
That's kind of my point, Steve.
Right. But this is all predicated on the fact that the Rams' defense didn't show up. And it is because of Donald's injury. If he's that much of a factor to that defense, which I think he is, it set itself up. And we all of us talked about the fact that this could either be an upset, which three of us picked. Only Sammy was smart enough to stay with the Packers. Or it could be a blowout, or it could be a hell of a football game. it turned out to be a blowout because the Rams defense just didn't show up. Yeah, we all talk about defense wins championships, but damn, your defense has got to show up to play before you can win. Well, and the Rams defense just didn't show up. And I don't think that Goff was an issue. Goff just did what we expected him to do. He didn't cost him the game. He didn't win in the game.
No, I think Goff did more than what I would have ever expected.
Exactly.
And he was 21 for 27, 174 yards. Cam Akers, 18 carries, 90 yards.
Yeah.
The offense, I think, played all right, Sam. The problem was the defense never could get off the field.
I agree with you. With Jared Goff, the 3 screws to his thumb, cold weather game, Green Bay, 21 for 27. That's about what you expect, or actually more than what I would expect him to do.
And Sammy, some downfield throws with zip.
Yeah, and that's more than what I expected him.
10, 15, 20 yards downfield with some zip on him and put him low to the ground in the right spot. I mean, Goff was not a factor in this game positively or negatively, and I think that's all McVay was praying to God he could get out of Goff.
Well, I do think he helped him out a little bit because
he was more positive.
He wasn't making the throws last week against Seattle. This week was much better. And obviously, McVay did adjust his playbook a little bit to help him out in that situation. Akers was pretty good again. I think we do have to give credit, though, to Green Bay's defensive line. They had 4 sacks in this game and 7 quarterback hits. So I think that the pass rush for Green Bay actually was a huge factor in the situation and actually kept Goff a little bit off his game. And even Cam Akers, 18 carries for 90 yards is pretty good, but it's not necessarily game-breaking.
No, and Mike, there's 2 other things here. Is it, again, I'm going with just what's happening right this weekend and next weekend and the next weekend. You let a defense allow Aaron Rodgers to stay on the field as long as the Rams let him stay on the field. You ain't going to beat Aaron Rodgers right now. Now, you're right. In the last 10 years, he has probably been a bigger disappointment to everybody based on what we perceive his talent to be than he has not. But right now, he's living up to his billing in a large way. It's a travesty if he doesn't win the MVP.
It doesn't matter because
nobody really is. But I say that in the sense that you leave Aaron Rodgers on the field, I don't care who you are. He is going to pick you apart.
Well, I think I'll take my chances with letting them run the ball instead of him getting me with big explosive plays. In the end, you look at this, the Rams had the ball with 10 minutes left and a chance to tie the game. So I don't think the game was a blowout. I think it was a game where they had a chance. The problem was it seemed like they never got off the field or never got them off the field.
They kept the score close. Well, the Rams were never going to win that football game. And if you believe that, do something stupid today.
Well, I think this, Steve, if you believe a team with the ball with 10 minutes left, down a touchdown, has no chance.
They were never in the game.
Okay. Sam, were they in the game down 25-17 or 25-18 with 10 minutes left in the ball and they just come off scoring?
Let's put it this way. It felt like I never felt like Green Bay was in danger. But yeah, they were right there. Their score was right there.
Sure.
The game was open. If you have one big play, Aaron Rodgers throws an interception, suddenly we're talking about this is a comeback and potentially an overtime game. And Packers were doing a game-winning drive for Los Angeles. So I don't think they were out of it. I just felt like Green Bay had a pretty strong grip on this game, even though the score said otherwise.
And based on what the perception of that game or the direction that game was going, Rams come down and score. Rodgers puts them right back in the end zone in less than 2 minutes. That game was controlled by Green Bay from the opening kickoff, and you can tell me the score was close and all that, but that's one of those games where, we only won by 5, but we actually won by 45.
All I know is this: if you're all
dominant in that game,
you know what? Tom Brady in the Super Bowl against Philadelphia Eagles had the ball to drive and go tie the game. Everybody
Tom
thought
Brady's
he would.
not Jared Goff. Tom Brady's a different. You're comparing apples to oranges.
No, because you're too stupid to listen to what I'm saying, which is I'm comparing Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. And on that last drive, when everybody thought the game would be tied because Tom Brady had the ball, the right guard fans on a block. Brady gets hit in the back and fumbles the ball. Stuff like that happens if the game stays close. Mm-hmm. So the game was not a blowout. The Rams were in it. I never felt like they were going to win the game, but there was a chance there. I never really felt like the Browns were going to win yesterday, but they were really only one play away. All right, let's go to last year's MVP, which will show you why MVPs don't really matter. Lamar Jackson gets dominated by the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills win this game 17-3. It wasn't that Josh Allen played so great. This was more, Sam, of the defense for the Buffalo Bills was dominant. I mean, their game plan at the start of the game, when you come out, you see Gus Edwards runs the ball all over him. J.K. Dobbins run the ball. And that seemed to be about all the yards they got in the game was those first two drives. And the Bills win the game basically because Lamar Jackson choked in the big moment. He locked onto a receiver. He threw it there no matter what. There was 4 defenders around the receiver. You end up with a pick 6. The Buffalo Bills win this game 17-3. And I still come back to the same thing. Offensive coordinator Mark Roman or Greg Roman, whatever the hell his name is a great coach when it comes to the run game. He was an offensive line coach. Their passing game leaves a ton to be desired, Sam. They don't have a passing game. Their route concepts, when you watch them, are very remedial. And I don't think that Lamar Jackson necessarily is remedial, but for some reason, this offensive coordinator continues to trend that way, and I really think it's stunting Lamar Jackson's growth.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say this for the past couple of hours, including some Baltimore Ravens fans I know. There has to be a significant change in the focus of the offense. Now, you can still be a great running football team. That's not the issue here. But you have to be a little bit better than the 31st or 32nd passing offense in the league. You have to open things up here somehow. And maybe you've signed an Allen Robinson or Ken Galladay, someone like a number 1 receiver in free agency, and you try to use a more dynamic offensive play set with those kind of guys. Maybe that changes things a bit. But it seems like there has to be a change in this offense because the way it is right now, it's limited. Because you can do what the Bills did last night, where basically you give them a little bit at the start of the game, and you kind of figure out what they're doing, and you lock them down for the rest of the night, which is what they did. And both defenses played really well. But I mean, look at the numbers, 150 total rushing yards for the Baltimore Ravens, but it doesn't really feel like that much because a lot of those were 3-and-out drives where it didn't really amount to much. I mean, even Lamar Jackson, he never had that long run that broke the game open. His longest run was 15 yards. He had that big run against Tennessee. He never got that the other night. And the pass rush for Buffalo was also very good. 4 sacks on the night, 7 quarterback hits. So I think there's a limit here to how much this current offense can do in Baltimore. And Lamar Jackson certainly will get a lot of blame for the game last night. He deserves it because he never saw that slot corner looking underneath his receiver in the end zone there, and that led to the pick 6. But there's also the fault of a lot of people here why this Baltimore Ravens failed this season.
Yeah, and I think this. When they first got Lamar Jackson, I think John Harbaugh did the right thing. He built the offense around what the strengths were for Lamar Jackson. My problem is over the last 3 years, it doesn't seem they've ever expanded the offense so Lamar Jackson could actually become a better quarterback.
Well, Sam made a good comment. I just wrote it down. 31st or 32nd in the league in what, passing offense?
The 32nd in passing offense.
All right, how does this guy get to be an MVP quarterback in the NFL?
Because they weren't last year.
When his team is a 32nd passing offense. Really, seriously? How about making him a running back, just saying he's the first running back other than a quarterback to win the MVP? I mean, until they build a passing game for Lamar Jackson within his capabilities, even if it's rudimentary, but they're basically a very one-dimensional football team.
But all they got when they throw the ball is rudimentary. The rudimentary routes. They're 2 or 3 guys. I mean, you're looking here, you're running, or you're looking here, you're running, or you're just running. And my problem with that is this. Everybody saw Lamar Jackson last year and said, oh, he's awesome. I told y'all last year, wait till you get to the playoffs. You get a team of linebackers that can run. They're going to play zone. They're going to make him throw. They scored 12 points and they got beat. The year before, they scored 3 points and they got beat. This year, they scored 3 points and they got beat. And last week, when they played the Tennessee Titans defense is not very good. And the Ravens were only able to score 20 points then. And once again, it seems like every game, Lamar Jackson throws for 160, 170 yards. In the NFL, that doesn't get it done in the playoffs. You've got to be able to throw the ball down the field. We'll talk about the Saints in a little bit. The Saints are a team that didn't even attempt to throw the ball down the field, except for when they used their backup quarterback as a wide receiver throwing the ball and had him throw it deep. So when you do this, if you watch this game, Sam, I don't know if you noticed this, but a lot of times there were 9 or 10 guys within 7 yards of the line of scrimmage for the Bills, and the Ravens still continued to just run or throw the ball quickly.
Well, I think that's partially because they get locked too much in on their game plan. You have to think about it. So they have good coordinators, they have good coaching in Baltimore, but at some point, do you take the risk of shaking things up a little bit there? Because they've been doing, like I said, doing the same thing the past 2.5 to 3 years at this point. And Buffalo is just sitting on them. And Buffalo has some decent defensive linemen. They've got really good defensive backs. So they could leave those defensive backs out there on an island with the safeties over the top and leave all their linebackers and defensive linemen up front and just handle the running game, which is why you had so many 3-and-outs, which is why you never had the long sustained drives with Baltimore, except for maybe twice in the game, the one that resulted in the pick six and the one that had the field goal. And they held them to situations where Justin Tucker had to kick field goals and missed them, by the way, in high-win situations. It's just you need to do something better. You need to change things up, and you need to be a passing offense, or at least have a better passing offense. Have the 16th ranked passing offense. You could probably win more games than what Baltimore is doing right now.
If they had the 16th ranked passing offense, they could probably win the Super Bowl. I mean, that's simple. I mean, Josh Allen was not spectacular. The difference between Josh Allen
in the whole playoffs.
He was
spectacular against the Colts.
He was spectacular against the Colts. Probably
so. He put up numbers, but he wasn't spectacular.
That is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard, Steve.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, seriously, am I wrong here, Sam? I mean, against the Colts had the ball almost the whole game.
Lost by 3 points. Colts had a legitimate chance to win that game. But let's don't digress back to that game.
Well, no, this is the thing, though. To say that Josh
Allen has not been as impressive in the playoffs as he's been in his regular season. They're still winning. They're still playing. They probably may, if Mahomes is in trouble with his concussion protocol, they may end up being a favorite in that game. But so I can't take anything away from Josh Allen. I'm just saying the Josh Allen I saw in the regular season was more dynamic and affecting change on the field more than he is right now. He's getting his numbers. He's making his plays. But maybe it's the fact that the rest of that team is elevating itself. But again, we're getting to a different game. Here's what I wrote down on notes about Baltimore. And I wrote this down while I was watching the game, and it was in the other room. And I wrote down, this football game reminds me of when I used to coach youth football. We always made the best player, the best kid at the 6th grade level, the quarterback. We just handed him the ball and let him run left and right every play. We had designed plays, and occasionally to keep parents off our asses, we handed the ball off to Johnny or to Ricky or to Bobby or something like that. But basically when we wanted to win the game, we gave the ball to our quarterback who just ran left, ran right, or threw a dump pass to our second-best athlete who was the short receiver in the short yard, just threw him the ball and then let him run. That's kind of what the Baltimore Ravens offense reminds me of. They have got to expand. That's a good football team. Baltimore is a well-coached, good football team. They're just you can't tell me ever Lamar Jackson should be an MVP in that league based on his capabilities to move the ball downfield with his arm.
Well, once again, the MVP means nothing. It's the best player in the
No, but it does mean something to everybody but you, Mike, because you're the only football genius in the world. You and Mel Kiper are the only two people
I don't know who Mel
truly
Kiper
understand
is.
Football.
I mean, this is the thing. The fact that you're a big enough dipshit to sit here and tell me that a guy that
keep calling people names all the time.
Well, you just did. You just called me Mel Kiper, whoever the hell that is. It's some kind of yoga.
You don't know who Mel Kiper is, right?
No, I've never heard of Mel Kiper, and I've never heard of Mitchell Trubisky. So when you want to get on there and you want to ride my ass, at least you could get somebody's name right. Josh Allen against the Colts was 26 for 35 for 324, 2 touchdowns, made a spectacular play on an attempted quarterback sneak where he comes out and throws a touchdown. He beat the Colts by himself because the Colts deserved to win that game if it wasn't for Josh Allen. When we look at here, to say that Lamar Jackson shouldn't have been the MVP last year is also idiotic because if you look at the stats he put up, he threw the ball fine. It is why I said that I don't care who wins the MVP. How many Drew Brees MVPs has there been, Sam?
0. Brees never won an MVP.
He's never won the MVP. He's still a Hall of Fame quarterback, and he's a lot better than Lamar Jackson. But the point is this. The Buffalo Bills won this game with their defense. They won it with their front four. And more importantly, they won it with Stephon Diggs. I don't think Kansas City's got anybody that can guard Stephon Diggs. It doesn't matter to me who they play with. And I believe that the Buffalo Bills are going to the Super Bowl. I believe the Buffalo Bills are going to win the Super Bowl. I've said that since week 4 or 5. My only concern here is Devin Singletary, 7 carries for 25 yards. That's it. So, I mean, Josh Allen, 7 for 3. They won 17-3 by running the ball for 32 yards. That to me is a concern. But it's less of a concern when I look at Kansas City because I believe if you run between the tackles against Kansas City, you could beat Kansas City. I think Devin Singletary could have a big game doing that, or TJ Yeldon, Sam.
Yeah, we saw, I think you might have put this on Twitter, the play calling by Cleveland, if we want to transition to that game now, so that's where you're headed. The play calling by Cleveland in the first half against Kansas City, they weren't running the ball very much. I mean, they started getting into it in the second half. We saw Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt didn't have a touch in the first half, I believe. He finally gets some in the second half. And Nick Chubb got most of his carries in the second half as well. So if you had started doing that earlier, it was, what, a 5-point game at the end? If you had just started running the ball earlier between the tackles as Cleveland, you could have won that game. And Buffalo has a decent offensive line. The issue is I don't really trust Devin Singletary at this point because I've said he's going to have big games multiple other times that he never does. So I don't really have that much faith in Buffalo's running game at this point. But I could understand why some people will say this is a time for them to take advantage of Kansas City's weaknesses, which basically, I mean, the whole defense, outside maybe Tyrann Mathieu and Chris Jones, it's not very good.
Yeah, and that's why I think Buffalo has a real shot here. And Albert Peterson, we'll answer that question in a second with the Bucs when we get to that game. Greg Gorecki said Jackson has yet to prove he can win in the playoffs. He won last week. He has not been able to win a divisional playoff game yet, and I still don't think it's his fault, even though I'm not a big fan. The Kansas City Chiefs squeaked by the Cleveland Browns. My problem with this, Steve, I think the way to beat the Chiefs is to run the ball between the tackles. The Browns, when they did run, were running jet sweeps or wide receiver sweeps. They were running the ball off tackle. The Chiefs stopped them. They only ran for 18 yards in the first half. You had a controversial call on what could have been a touchdown. The guy reaches the ball out, gets hit in the head. So the Browns had chances to win this game. They didn't take advantage of them. But my question is, why aren't you just attacking the Chiefs' the weak spot, which is to run the ball between the tackles with your strength, which are your two running backs, Chubb and Hunt, in the first half of the game?
I don't know. Is it a sense that, and the word I wrote down for that game was just, I thought the Chiefs, up until the time, at least until Mahomes went out of the game, I thought the Chiefs' execution offensively was very strong. I thought they just were executing well, whatever they needed to do. And in turn, what that does is it puts pressure on their defense. And then when the offense comes out, it forces the offense to probably get out of what they would like to do and go back to what they know to do, and that's move up and down the field with the arm. It's a great point, Mike, about why they just don't run them up the field, because that does seem to be whatever Achilles Kansas City has. It seems to be that. But I don't know if people just don't feel they have enough time to exploit that, because Kansas City is so damn explosive offensively when Mahomes is in there. Is that the reason why they don't? They feel they got to get outside and try and get the 15, 20-yard runs and use the speed as opposed to just the power up the middle? Because I love Chubb going up the middle. That guy pounds his way for an extra 3 or 4 yards. Every time he touches the football, he gets it on his own entirely.
Yeah, and they got Kareem Hunt too. And my question to you is this, though, Steve. It's kind of like if you're playing the LA Lakers of 1987, you don't want to play their game. You want to slow the game down and make them play yours. That's what Cleveland didn't do here. And I really don't think the Chiefs' offense did execute well. And I'll say it just because of one fact. When Mahomes was in, they ended up kicking like 4 or 5 field goals and only had 1 touchdown. Well, they had 2 touchdowns. But they settled for like 3 or 4 field goals there, where if they're playing Buffalo this week and the next week they're playing Brady or Rodgers, if you're settling for field goals in those games, you're not going to win those games.
Right.
And Sam, I mean, Chad Henne had to be the story of the week. He threw one of the most atrocious interceptions you'll ever see. But then he comes back with a huge 14-yard run. And then, of course, you get the call by Andy Reid. They throw the pass to Tyreek Hill to win the game. I still think this. I understand why he did it. It was a high-percentage play. I still have punted the damn ball, though.
Yeah, but you know what? They run the same play against Miami earlier in the year and had worked as well. I still would have punted. Honestly, I thought they were going to just take the penalty, move back 5 yards, and then punt it. That's what I expected, but they pulled it out. It was maybe 3 seconds left on the clock, snapped the ball, and made that throw. So I understand why I did it. Like I said, I probably wouldn't have done it as well. I probably just would have punted it away and hope the defense can hold them long enough. But if it works out, so we're going to talk about it. That's the kind of play you need to make if you're trying to win a game. And in a playoff caliber situation, you want coaches that are going to go out there and try to win football games. So the fact that Andy Reid made that call, I mean, even if he had screwed it up, I'm sure he would have been run through by the press. But even so, like, you can't blame him for trying to make that call when you have your backup quarterback and you want to win a game.
I'm going to blame him. And this is the thing. With me, man, I don't care if you make it or not. When I watched that game, my thought is, if you run the ball, Cleveland's got no timeouts left. You're going to punt the ball to them with less than a minute left. You're probably pitting them inside the 20. Baker Mayfield's a good quarterback, but the Cleveland Browns, I think, have a really good run blocking line. I don't think the pass blocking aspect's there for them. I just thought it would have been the safer bet because let's face it, Chad Henne could have totally choked on the throw. Tyreek Hill could have dropped the pass. There's a lot of bad things that could have happened there. And if I'm giving Cleveland, and they still needed a touchdown either way, Cleveland did. So I would much rather have them have to go 80 yards than just go 50 yards in less than a minute.
No, it's fair. I mean, that's totally reasonable. You could make the argument what Andy Reid did was totally unreasonable, but it worked out.
Oh, it's a great call because it worked.
As the hero now until next week, and we'll see if the availability of guys like Patrick Mahomes. I think Rashad Breeland, one of their corners, I believe, is also in the concussion protocol. So we'll see if those guys are available, and if not, that'll have a huge impact on the game, I'm sure.
Yeah, and I don't think, Steve, there's any way Patrick Mahomes should be playing anyways. He just got a concussion.
Are you?
Well, I think.
But what's your point? No, he should. I think concussion protocol is the one lockdown the NFL has that's pretty rigid. I mean, I think if he doesn't clear protocol and the team doesn't get to administer the protocol, that's done by an outside agency. If they don't think he's ready to play, guess what? I don't care how much Patrick Mahomes is making in a year, he ain't playing.
I believe this. I believe really that it would surprise me if Patrick Mahomes is not playing in this game.
Right. Well, did you hear Andy Reid right after the game in the press conference? Oh, I just got done talking to him. He's fine.
Yeah.
That's what Andy Reid said in his press conference.
Hey,
I just had a conversation. We talked about quantum nuclear physics.
Hey,
and he's fine.
All I can tell you is that the way he staggered, he's not fine. And there is no way to recover. There's no way to recover from a brain injury in 1 week.
No.
I swear, there's no way. I mean, he will play.
Not bad enough for how he looked coming off the field.
Oh, no. He was staggering like he was drunk.
He didn't know what planet he was on.
Yeah. But he's going to play. And I'll tell you what, if he plays, it just shows you nothing's changed in the NFL. And we see guys, I think this. Y'all can disagree with it if you want, but I think if you get a concussion, I think you should be out of mandatory. You have to miss at least the next game. I mean, you can't recover in a week.
No, you're right.
Agree, Mike. That's fair.
Yeah,
that's very fair.
Once you get a concussion, the likelihood of you getting another one within a short period of time, if you go back out there and try again, it goes up.
Well,
like I've had friends who have had like 5 concussions by the end of high school, because they keep going out there and keep trying to play again.
The scary thing is this, though. The second concussion inside of a week is where you get death. And I mean, I'm sure that wouldn't happen, but damn, you never know. And it's not worth the risk for a football game for a guy that's 24 or 25 years old that's probably going to do this for another 15 years. And I could also tell you this, Chad Henne is good enough to beat Buffalo because damn near any quarterback playing in the NFL, you give them Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, and Andy Reid calling the play. You got a shot to win the game. And I'm not saying that Chad Henne is just as good as Patrick Mahomes. I'm not looking down on anything Patrick Mahomes has done. It's just the perfect situation if you're an NFL quarterback.
Yeah, 2 points. One is you go back to, and since February 14th is coming up here pretty quick, and we all know that that's the start of the Great American Race.
Oh, I thought it was Valentine's Day.
Yeah, it's February 14th.
It's one of the Sweethearts race on the track.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Dale Earnhardt finally walked away from racing Little E. 8 concussions. I mean, and he said that the effects just kept getting worse and worse and worse after every time he wrecked a car and got a head injury, to the point where he was waking up and couldn't clear headaches and blurry vision all day. They just kept getting worse. So you're right, Mike. The next time he gets it, it's just going to compound itself. And then you're getting into the CTE situation. But I do believe right now, because the onus is on it so much and the teams don't get to control, unlike a regular injury, whether they put him off IR or not. Like Aaron Donald probably had no business playing. Retrospectively now, looking to see how poorly he played in the game. He was probably hurt a lot worse, but the guy's a warrior, so he wants to play. Mahomes needs to looking at him coming off the field did not look good. He was glassy-eyed at best.
Yeah, and when we look at the Chiefs game against the Browns, we had the call in the end zone, or the call with the fumble outside of the back
How
of
can
the
it
end
not
zone.
be a reviewable play?
Number one, I don't know how it can't be a reviewable play because it should be a reviewable play.
Yeah, it's spearing. That was blatant spearing.
I mean,
he led with his helmet.
So the point is this: shouldn't everything be reviewable now?
Well, you might as well. If you're going to have instant replay, have the ability to review everything. I mean, what is this selective reviewing crap? I mean, if you're going to have instant replay, freaking use instant replay.
Yeah, because the point there is you put them on the 1 yard line, you'll go half the distance from there where the penalty occurred. The ball's on the half foot line or half yard line, whatever that is.
And they get a first down.
And they get a first down, and maybe they don't get it in the first time. Even if they do, you take about 15 more seconds off. You kick the ball off to them. Maybe they don't go down and get the field goal. And you're looking at a, 13-10 or 16-10 game at halftime. And if it was like that and Mahomes goes out, the Cleveland Browns could have very easily won the game. I'm not going to say it's what cost them the game because I still think the lack of being able to run the ball or the lack of willingness to run the ball between the tackles in the first half killed them. And then they did have the ball twice in the fourth quarter with a chance to take the lead. And for some reason, the play calling there even, Sam, to me, was so off kilter that it was almost painful to watch.
When you have to wonder, because we talked about this last year when Tennessee played Kansas City, if it's just like coaches outsmarting themselves to some degree or coaches trying to get too cute with their play calling, try to change what they're doing because they're playing the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, you have to wonder if it's just them getting their own heads and basically screwing themselves up because they're trying to make changes that they don't necessarily have to make when they're playing Kansas City. And also, it was a 10-point swing. That play, right, almost back to the end zone, that's a 10-point swing right there. That could arguably be the difference in the game. And I'm sure someone's going to raise hell at the owners' meetings or at something like that this offseason. They'll probably make rule changes, or at least they'll probably put rules to vote, and we'll see if something new comes out next year.
About regarding what?
Yeah, on which one? On the hit or the
Arguably both. I would think the touchback rule, the end zone, would probably be adjusted first.
I thought that too when I saw that, but that rule's been in the NFL for as long as I can remember. Yeah. That's not a new rule.
I think it's a
television rule they put in.
I don't have a problem with it.
I don't have an opinion on it, but I'm just saying when that happened, I'm like, what a ripoff for the team. They get there and they fumble. It's like they have to give the ball. Why? The other team didn't get possession of the ball.
Yeah, but you've been around forever. I mean, don't fumble the ball if you want to.
Yeah, no, Mike, you're right. You're right, Mike. It's just a rule I don't think they'll touch because it's been around so
How about this?
damn long.
I think they might touch it, and they'll do it out of a courtesy to sad Cleveland Browns fans with their little dog faces because, it hurt the Cleveland Browns. If it would have hurt another team, maybe not so much. But everybody was so far up the Cleveland Browns' asses. And I can tell you this right now. The Cleveland Browns will not be in the playoffs next year. They're not. I mean, there's issues with that team. They need secondary help. Kevin Stefanski, to me, showed me yesterday, man, if you're not willing to give the ball to your two best players in your biggest game of the year in the first half at the defending world champions home, you're going to have issues. And I think there's issues there. I think there's issues in Pittsburgh. The only way the Cleveland Browns will make the playoffs is if the Cincinnati Bengals continue to not surround Joe Burrow with stuff. And if, that's the only way this happens. Because to me, when I watched the Cleveland Browns, I didn't see a good football team because their defense sucks. It's just bad. I mean, most of the time, it was kind of like you held your breath when the Chiefs had the ball. Even if it was 3rd and 25, you're thinking, oh, hell, they're probably going to gain 26 yards here. Because Cleveland's defense is atrocious. Their linebacker play is poor. The defensive line is good. The secondary is terrible. I mean, it just is. I mean, when you line up 4th and 1 and you don't have your best corner on Tyreek Hill playing man press, because all you got to do, that play's coming. We saw it against Miami. So if you man press him with Ward, your best corner, put him in the slot, press him. You got your corner over here on the outside guy. You play him press coverage too, but you let the outside guy go, and then you actually send him in to take away the outside of Hill. You could have double teamed Hill on that, taken that play away and caused all kind of trouble. You should have known it was coming. It was like the Super Bowl where Seattle didn't run the ball and New England guessed on the play, if you know what I'm talking about, and they actually had somebody run under the guy. You had somebody over the guy. You got to take a shot like that there. And the fact that Kevin Stefanski never thought that was the play that was coming, I really think that he thought they were just going to try to draw him off sides. And when they motioned that running back next to the quarterback, he almost shit his pants because he realized he'd blown all of his timeouts, and he blew one of them on an absolutely atrocious challenge earlier in that quarter that he was never going to win. This game doesn't fall on the officials not making that call. It doesn't fall on anything but Kevin Stefanski. Maybe they would have been better off if he'd have still had COVID and been hiding out in his basement.
Well, yeah, that challenge made no sense to me. I think that was just a total reaction, maybe because the players were saying he dropped the ball. It was a good catch. But at no point did that ball come within maybe 6 inches of the ground. Tyreek Hill had it throughout the entire process, so that challenged me. And they used, another timeout, I think, in the third quarter, before the fourth quarter even started. So they're down to one timeout early in the fourth quarter, and that could have cost them the game there because you didn't have any time to plan. You basically backed yourself into a corner, and you were still trailing at that point. So I don't know. I don't like how Stefanski coaches the game all around.
I don't like the way coaches use the timeout to keep from getting a delay game in the first or the third quarter. I mean, if it's 2nd and 7, I'd rather have that timeout for the end of the half and make it 2nd and 12 right now, halfway through the third quarter.
No, timeouts are way more valuable. I don't understand why timeouts are used so much on those kind of plays. I would tell my quarterback, if it's 2nd and 5, go back to 3rd and 10. Oh, well, we'll try to make a play or something like that for next. Timeouts are extremely valuable in these games.
All right, next up, the end of Drew Brees, it looks like, as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers took down the New Orleans Saints 30-20. The scary thing here, Steve, was the fact that it looked like Drew Brees can't even throw the ball over 20 yards anymore because they didn't even attempt to.
Yeah, and it's amazing how fast those guys fall off. We saw the same thing kind of in Phillip Rivers, how quick it goes. And you kind of saw it with Roethlisberger in some fashion too. I mean, he just, past 10 yards, he wasn't accurate anymore. I mean, he could still chuck it, but he couldn't zip it. And I don't know, but they're 40 years old. I mean, that's not a young man's game, but I definitely think it signaled that it's time for Drew to walk out, and I hope he does walk out gracefully away from the game and just says, hey, I had a great career. I've got a ring. I've got a Super Bowl championship against my beloved Colts. And he goes on, and it's a tremendous career. What did he throw for 80,000 yards?
I think it was, I don't know. It was around 60,000. Tom Brady, if he plays next year, will break all of his records. Really? We'll have him for a while.
Yeah.
Brees was 19.
It is amazing how he just, and they didn't even really test his arm to throw it deep.
That's what I mean. And, that was what was scary. I mean, even when they're driving at the end of the game down 10 points with like 5 minutes left, they're still throwing short passes. It makes you wonder why they wouldn't just roll with Jameis Winston at that point, Sam.
Well, yeah, because we saw earlier in the game their one big play all night came from Jameis Winston on that trick play that Chicago had used the week before. They put that in for New Orleans. They used that during the game. And Winston threw a dime to a wide open wide receiver and ended up in a touchdown. I don't know why you wouldn't have had Winston on the field more. Look at it. They had Taysom Hill on the field for more plays usually during a game than they did Jameis Winston last night. And Winston would have been more valuable because you can at least throw the ball with him.
Yeah, and the other thing that really confounds me when I watch Sean Payton's team, Alvin Kamara, 18 carries, 85 yards, average 4.7 yards per carry. How in the world could you be a football coach and not stick the ball in this guy's gut at least 25 times a game, Steve?
Well, because they're so reliant on their air attack with Drew Brees. I don't know that Sean Payton has the capability of making that flip so quickly, of changing his mindset from a pass-oriented offense in the middle of a game to a run-oriented offense. It's the only answer I can come up with. Sam, does that kind of make sense to you? I just think he couldn't.
It doesn't to me because he never does it. And Alvin Kamara may be the best running back in the NFL. Right. I think all around,
with
there's
Drew
no doubt he is.
For 15 years, they've lived and died with Drew Brees' arm, if not longer.
Yeah, but I think that's why they have died more than they've lived,
right,
Sam.
Exactly.
Wait, they've had guys like Pierre Thomas and Reggie Bush. They've had running back by committees in the past, but you never had that one really dominant back in New Orleans. And you arguably have that now with Alvin Kamara. Well, let's put it this way: if you're doing those passes that are going for 5-6 yards, however, Drew Brees averaged 3.9 yards per completion last night. If you're averaging 3.9 yards per completion, why not give it to the running back who's averaged 4.7 yards per carry? I mean, why not?
Yeah.
It's a lot less risky. You just do that, and you have a great offensive line as well.
So what we want to know is Sean Payton smarter than a fifth grader?
No, he's not.
Can't do basic math.
Well, I think that Sean Payton used to be a really good football coach. I think Sean Payton's becoming his own
Drew
worst
Brees
enemy.
was in his prime.
Well, I think Sean Payton's his own worst enemy now. I think ego is the downfall of us all, and this is his downfall. And it's really going to fall off if he decides to go with Taysom Hill as he's starting quarterback next. The Buccaneers, Leonard Fournette, 63 yards. Ronald Jones, 62 yards. I will bring up the fact that combined they had 30 carries, which is what Alvin Kamara should have had. But this team has a lot of weapons. But if you've got a healthy Ronald Jones going to Green Bay next week and a healthy Leonard Fournette, that makes this team a lot more dangerous going on the road, Sam.
Well, yeah, and watching Ronald Jones last night, I mean, I watched him a little bit in college, so I was kind of surprised how much he was struggling early on in his time with Tampa Bay. But he's got burst that Leonard Fournette can't match. Leonard Fournette's got maybe an extra power, but Jones has burst and movement in quick areas that Leonard Fournette just cannot match. And if Ronald Jones is running well, and Leonard Fournette, who's having a pretty solid outing the past couple of weeks, is also playing well, I would find it hard for any team to beat Tampa Bay because you know what you're going to get with Brady. Brady is going to keep the ball from – he's not going to turn the ball over. He's going to find Mike Evans, going to put his players in positions to succeed, and he's going to make the late game plays that you need to win. So I really think if you have a running game going and Tom Brady playing the way he is right now, even Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers, I don't know if it's going to be enough.
I don't think Tom Brady played that well yesterday. I mean,
Tom
Brady, yeah, he does when he plays Aaron Rodgers or when he plays Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes. That's the problem here. And what we didn't see, everybody talks about Drew Brees not throwing the ball down the field. How many times did Tom Brady attempt to throw the ball more than 20 yards down the field, Sam?
I honestly couldn't tell you. Probably 4 or 5 times.
I think it was once.
Maybe really. It didn't seem like a lot.
So my thing is this. To me, Tom Brady looks old too. He just doesn't look as old as Drew Brees. Tom Brady is still one of the top 5 or 6 quarterbacks in the NFL. But I still question, if you go to Green Bay, weather's cold, weather's bad, they bunch 8 or 9 guys up in the box. Now, maybe they won't do this just out of fear of Tom Brady. But if they put 8 guys in the box to take away the run game, and all of a sudden Tom Brady's got to start taking shots 15 or 20 yards downfield, I don't know if he can do that anymore.
Well, it's a good Green Bay secondary you're trying to target there with Donald Savage, Adrian Amos at safety, and Jair Alexander at cornerback. That's an all-pro corner right there, who's much better than Marshall and Lattimore, who just played, and Mike Evans struggled against Lattimore. So it'll be interesting to see if you can handle that or not. And like I said, I don't know. If the running game goes away, it's all on Tom Brady all over again. I just don't think he matches the ball, especially if Green Bay's pass rush, like I mentioned this past week, had 4 sacks. If Green Bay can do that again, I think it'll be a very tough game for Tom Brady.
Well, I also think this, though. If you watch if you watch the Tampa Bay defense, I know they didn't get a ton of pressure on the Saints, but the Saints were throwing the ball so damn quick, not much you could do there. But Tampa Bay's defense was really good. And the guy who could be the difference here is the guy who I think may be the most dominant player in the NFL when he's healthy, and that's Devin White, Sam.
Devin White has some flaws in pass coverage, but the way they use him, they don't put him in situations to fail. They put him in a lot of positions where he can succeed. He can rush the passer. I think he's had multiple 2 and 3 sacks games this year. So you get him rushing the passer up the middle, he'll be phenomenal in that role. He drops back. He's athletic enough that he can run guys down. And so I think Devin White put alongside Levante David. I know we talk a lot about that defensive line, but I'm not unsure that those 2 linebackers are the key part of Tampa Bay's defense.
I think they are the key because I think they're the ones that could take Aaron Jones out of the game and then force Aaron Rodgers to beat them with the pass. And then hopefully you can get on his ass by rushing him. When I look at this yesterday, when I watched the game, I'm thinking, well, I think that, I think the Bucs will beat them. I watched the Bucs dominate the Packers the first time, 38-10. They intercepted Rodgers twice. Aaron Jones, 10 carries for 15 yards. The game was played in Florida, which the weather's a little bit nicer than it is in Green Bay. And, they scored 28 points in the second quarter. The other 3 quarters were basically a 10-10 tie. Brady for the game was 17-20, and they won the game because Ronald Jones carried the ball 23 times for 113 yards. and they didn't have Leonard Fournette, who I think was out and he was hurt at that time. You had still like LaShawn McCoy and Keyshawn Vaughn. So when you look at this game, I mean, from what I saw earlier in the season, it seems like a really bad matchup for Green Bay. But from what I watched yesterday, I'm not sure, sir, that Tom Brady can actually get this done if he has to play great, Steve.
Boy, it's just hard to bet against Tom Brady in these situations because I think Tom Brady is as chameleon a quarterback as there is in the NFL right now, and that I think if there's anybody that can adapt to environments. I mean, you talk about the weather.
He's the best. He's the best bad weather quarterback I've ever seen.
Yeah, I'm hoping what we get was a game Sunday. That when they're Sunday.
Yeah.
I'm hoping what you get is the hottest quarterback in the league versus the smartest quarterback in the league, and it just comes down to these two guys showing their abilities at the highest level, and that's what you want to see. But I have banked on the Bucs because I don't think they show a lot of weaknesses in their game. But Brady just finds ways to raise teams' level of play enough on both sides of the ball. It's like he finds a way to get the defense to work harder because his offense works harder. He brought Gronkowski back in. How many targets did Gronkowski have yesterday? He caught 2 passes, I think, which he's been pretty much non-existent for a while.
Yeah, he's Gronk. But you know what? Gronk can make a difference in a running game. He can block a little bit. Cameron Brate can make a difference.
He's bringing his players. He's bringing Gronk back in. He's building the crescendo of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers only like Brady can do. And I tell you what, Rodgers cannot slip up in Green Bay. If he doesn't come out and play like he played last week against the Rams, this is going to be an absolute dogfight.
And Rodgers has had issues in playoff games before.
He's capable of doing it. He stunk it up against the Colts. I mean,
that's not a playoff game. That's the Colts.
No, but still, it's still, there's a team that is, I don't see the Colts and the Packers on the same playing field, but yet the Colts found a way to win that game. Anyway, my point is this. I have all the respect and admiration now for Tom Brady that I never had when Manning was playing because I was a Manning fan, because Manning played in Indianapolis. Be that as stupid as it is, but that's the truth.
All right. Albert Peterson asked, what could be said about Brady if he takes the Bucs to the Super Bowl? I think nothing that Tom Brady does right now can change my opinion of him. He is the greatest quarterback that ever lived. The fact that he has taken the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who hadn't won a playoff game since they won the Super Bowl, which was Super Bowl 37. He comes there immediately. Now they're in the NFC Championship game. He is the greatest quarterback that has ever lived. There is no question. He could come out and throw 27 interceptions at Lambeau, get beat 400-0, and he's still the greatest quarterback that ever lived.
You can't argue with that. I think he has more championship game appearances than all but maybe 2 franchises in NFL history. So it's just something that's been incredible. He's been able to go wherever he wants to go and succeed. Granted, he's got a lot of good weapons there in Tampa Bay, but that can't take away from how good he's been this year at 43 years old. Now,
the other thing, a big case, not even with Kansas City as Patrick Mahomes, but Edwards-Helaire, the running back, they have to have him, I think, to be successful in this game. It looks like he will be back from what I just read. And I think our friend Bobby Sheridan has texted me and said it looked like he'd be back Sunday. The question here is this, though. A high ankle sprain is not easy to come back from. They never even mentioned he might possibly play this last week. So I don't know if you're going to get him at 100%, but I would think that Helaire is a guy that they really need to play this Buffalo Bills team because the Bills are going to score points on that Chiefs defense, Sam.
Yeah, you're going to have everybody working. Clyde Edwards-Helaire was key. I think, wasn't he key to beating them earlier this year? Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the game against Buffalo in Week 6 had 26 carries for 161 yards and 4 receptions for 8 yards. So he was crucial to them being Buffalo that time around and didn't really throw the ball that much when they beat the Bills. So you need to have a guy like him available. And last time he played was Week 15. So it does feel a little bit rushed getting him back here. I don't expect him to be 100% from what I've seen so far. So I know it wasn't even considered that he was really going to play this past weekend. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out. If he is 100%, which he Probably won't be. And if he's not, you really need to have Patrick Mahomes for this game if you don't have Clyde Edwards-Helaire at 100%.
Well, I think that Aaron Donald proved at the level of competition you're playing right now, be it any one of these 4 teams, they are the 4 probably best teams in the NFL. They're still playing. If you're not playing 100%, you're a liability to your team right now. And Aaron Donald proved that.
I think that's
Aaron Donald.
Hey, if Aaron Donald would have been 90%, he might have made an impact. I think Aaron Donald was 50% at best.
Right, at best.
So, I mean,
yeah, but still,
if you can play, you play.
Playing 100%, are you doing your team a disservice by even stepping on the field? Well, I mean, do you let a Chad Henne come in and and Henne puked on himself.
Chad Henne.
Well, Henne, I like Henne better. Just got a few different references. Okay.
Okay, you like Henne? That's fine.
Anyway, do you take your chance with him? When we talked about it, should Jameis Winston have come in when they needed to go deep and throw?
Hey, this is the thing. The reason there was no way they were going to put Jameis Winston in is because he screwed up and he started Taysom Hill for 5 games. If he would have started Jameis Winston, you might have found that you had a quarterback that could get that done. Taysom Hill is going to be the same type of quarterback that Drew Brees is going to be. He's going to throw quick passes because they don't trust him to throw the ball down the field. I still think Tampa Bay, to win the game, Tom Brady is going to have to beat them down the field, maybe a throw down the seam to a tight end, whether it's Gronk or Cameron Brate. I think Antonio Brown needs to be healthy. They need to be all hands on deck. The Green Bay Packers, I think right now, are playing probably better than anybody. I think it's them and the Bills. If you were to go with the 2 teams playing the best right now, I think you would have the Bills and Packers in the Super Bowl. But I think both of these games are toss-ups. I don't think it matters whether Patrick Mahomes plays or not. I think that game's a toss-up because I think the Chiefs are that talented. I think that we could have a matchup of any 2 of these 4 teams playing each other. I don't think that there should be a point spread more than 3 points on either one of these games, to tell you the truth.
Hey, Mike, I have a question for you, or Sam, either one. You guys are both, Mike, you're the genuine resident historian. How many times, because this potentially could be a rematch of Super Bowl II, Green Bay and Kansas City?
No, it couldn't. Green Bay and the Raiders played in Super Bowl II. Green Bay, Kansas City would have been Super Bowl I.
Super Bowl I, okay, I had it mixed up. Okay.
That's why I'm the resident historian, by the way.
Okay, no, that's fine. No, how many times has there been exact rematches in Super Bowls?
Oh, you've had Cincinnati, San Francisco, 16 and 23. You had the Cowboys and Bills who played 3 times in like 4 years. The Cowboys and Steelers played 3 different times.
So it's not that infrequent.
It's not that infrequent. I mean, the Bengals, Niners.
You're looking right now at a chance where you could have a rematch of, I guess, Super Bowl I with the Chiefs and with the Packers.
Yeah, and you've got the Bucs only played against the Raiders in the Super Bowl. The Bills played the Cowboys and the Redskins. So the only rematch you can get is a rematch of Super Bowl I. I'm sure Kansas City fans would love to get revenge for that 35-10 loss.
There you go.
Hey, you know what?
Your Google works fast.
My hands are right here, Steve.
Yeah, I know. Now they are.
They have been the whole time. Did anybody see me reach up at any point?
No, I believe Mike actually knew that off the top of his head because Mike's the kind of person who will pull information like that out.
Easy. I knew that, we're still trying to get you to understand what the Heidi game was, Sam.
All right. Right now in Vegas, the Packers are favored by 4. The Chiefs are favored by 2.5. So around
what is it now?
3
The Packers are favored by 4?
The Packers by 4, the Chiefs by 2.5.
That's about right.
That's what I think. I think both games should be 3-point games.
They call them right, yeah.
Yeah, I think they're going to be great football games. I can't wait to watch
Bobby Sheridan to weigh in on those early.
Bobby Sheridan is the one that just sent me the lines.
Oh, did he? Okay.
Yeah, because if you saw, I actually reached over. You could see me move.
Oh, okay.
What? Come on,
no.
You upset me when you accused me of using Google. You didn't even see me move my shoulders.
I apologize.
Who was the Super Bowl I MVP, Steve?
Bart Starr.
No.
Max McGee.
Yes.
All right.
Are you sure? Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure it's Max McGee.
It was Bart Starr.
He was drinking the night before and he was hungover.
It was Bart Starr. He caught the 2. Max McGee caught the 2 touchdown passes, but Bart Starr was the MVP.
Starr.
So I tricked you into not giving the right answer. That was brilliant of me.
See, that's how much trust I have in you and how much I don't want to compete with you.
Well, who did the Raiders?
Anything with hair growing.
You couldn't beat me at anything. If I really wanted to grow hair, I would grow it. My wife just likes clean shaved heads. I don't even have armpit hair because my wife don't like hair.
Wow, that's TMI.
Not really, because I said my armpits. I didn't say anyplace else.
So, were there any surprises? Has the NFL missed this? Is there any team that should be playing next weekend that's not?
Oh,
Sam?
I mean, the New Orleans Saints are the most talented team, but they have no coaching. Yeah. Go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, on paper, the Saints have probably the best roster in the NFL. They screwed it up. They didn't have a quarterback when they needed one. So I think the Saints. The Saints, if you had asked me at the very start of the year if Drew Brees was totally healthy, I probably would have said the Saints would have made it to at least the conference championship game. But because of everything that happened, Sean Payton, not being able to throw the ball downfield, kind of derailed their season.
Mike?
I already said. All right. Here we go. You want Super Bowl odds to win the Super Bowl? The Packs plus 210, Chiefs plus 210, Bills plus 325, Bucks plus 400. There you go.
Then I suppose, I'm not a gambler and I don't play one on TV, nor do I stay at a Holiday Inn Select. The lower the number, the better your odds.
Well, yeah. So
okay. Well, I don't gamble.
Yeah, you do. You said you did.
I'm far too materialistic to gamble.
Yeah, I know. You're a princess. All right. I want to make sure everybody goes and checks out pathofpurity.direct. Best CBD there is. You take it. It actually runs through your system, works for 12 hours, goes into your bloodstream immediately, and then you get the benefit of it all day. Right now at pathofpurity.direct, you can get 2 months supply, which is normally $150 most places, for $75 plus free shipping. So make sure you check out pathofpurity.direct. You can follow Steve Risley at srisley34 for all of his mind-numbing comments, usually between him and Bobby Sheridan. And also Sam Teets at SamTeets33. Sam doesn't really tweet much at all.
I don't. I think I do tweet a little bit.
He retweets a lot.
Yeah, I do retweet a lot. That's true.
He's more of a retweeter than he is a tweeter. But also make sure you go to Rockfin, sign up for free with your email to get all the grueling truth content.
Mike, I heard word that Trump is recruiting Bobby or Sammy, so Sammy can retweet Trump's tweets. That's what I say at 30 in the morning.
Trump is no longer on Twitter because he got banned.
No, I know that's why he's needing Sam. He's sending it to Sam and asking Sam to retweet it.
All right.
No, I don't. I blocked Trump long ago. I blocked all the politicians long ago. I didn't want to hear any of it.
Politicians are stupid, Steve, and they're hideous and evil, and they're going to be the downfall of us all if we don't do something about it. But instead, we're just going to wait for the AFC and NFC championship games next week and let whatever happens happen. Nothing we can do about it. What the hell are we going to do? We're just three guys that just watch football that didn't even know COVID existed until a week ago when Steve Risley asked me, hey, why is everybody wearing a mask?
Hey, do you think there's a chance that 50,000 people storm Lambeau Field and bust the doors down and break windows and get in for the game?
That would be good because I like crowds at games. It makes it much better.
Yeah, Kansas City had what, over 17,000?
I don't even know what Kansas City had. Buffalo had 7,000, and it sounded like 60,000.
16,000.
Yeah, Buffalo was good. Buffalo was energetic.
I mean, actually, that Buffalo game reminded me of the Bengals and Bills in 1985 when the Bills sucked before they got Jim Kelly, where I think there was literally like 12,000 people in Buffalo.
Have they announced yet what they're going to do with the Super Bowl? I mean, because that's in Florida. There's no restrictions in Florida.
Yeah, there are.
Are there now?
But there always has been for large gatherings because
I thought they said the NFL could fill a stadium if they wanted to.
Well, I think from what I remember, like the Dolphins, weren't the Dolphins like 12,000 or something for games?
Yeah, Jacksonville had a big crowd on their only win of the year.
In Jacksonville, they let them have as many people as they wanted. They got 9,000. But all right, guys, we're going to wrap the show up. Make sure you stay tuned because next at 2:00, you can hear James Comerford on the Path of Purity from Replenishing Care and Technologies. But for now, for Sam Teets, Steve Risley.
Real quick.
You got 10 seconds.
Okay, 10 seconds. What kind of goofy power rankings are you two doing for the rest of the week?
We don't know what we're doing tomorrow, but we will be here tomorrow at 1:00. For Steve Risley, Sam Teets, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening and watching The Grueling Truth.